And one more time?
Secularism with a overview that should probably get a new sheet, and then case.
Give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
Is everyone ready? John's ready? Okay. We're not going to go for the secular. We're not. Oh, wait. Sorry. Let's start my timer. Okay. Now we're ready. We're not going to go for the secularism argument. We'll see that they don't destroy education. There's no offense on this one. We're not going to go for it. Now to the overview. The role of the balance to vote for the team whose methodology best affects the material conditions of oppression or alternative of historical materials is best to meet this role of the balance is a strict analysis of material conditions of society based on the understanding of production being at the forefront of society and life. Our Lukács evidence supports that it's integral to informing the proletariat to action through the understanding of historical context for material relations. They see alt solvency, which means you should grant us 100% solvency, and we solve their role of the balance of historical materialism is uniquely situated to challenge the oppressive capitalist structure or culture that places the proletariat in a position of fear. And our impact is alienation. This goes conceded. Our Gasper evidence points out how capitalism produces distancing from one species being rich and relates to which related to the humanist creative effort. Simply lines in management hierarchies distance humans from the creative capability, creating dissatisfaction, alienation from life. This turns their verdict because relation to the species being is uniquely tied to human interrelations. This means their politics of being for life ultimately doesn't spread beyond anything else. It doesn't alter politics as a whole. Now we have 3 key framing questions to support our alternative. First, materiality before ideology. The affirmative votes ultimately tends how they see the world and inhibits appropriate actions of material conditions. Crossed by Ebertons of Arzada. Their ideological support of the affirmation of life overlooks how that is interpreted in culture now and how that is applied. This can be exemplified in cross-text when I ask how the peak of Christianity in the United States, how it mysteriously coincides with the peak of capitalism. It proves that the ideology they attempt to promote ultimately doesn't have any kind of effect because it's locked to the current ideology. Second, economic models produce culture. They get it backwards. Evolving economic models through history place people in different socioeconomic roles that ultimately define them culturally and socially. Fear culture is ultimately produced by capital reliance on a securitized rolling of the dice and the inability to relate to one's being. And 3, revolution is inevitable. Economic models are inherently faulty, meaning the capitalist model will inevitably collapse on itself. Actions before the faltering of capitalism can only serve to encourage backlash and sustain it. This is apparent with the American backlash to the communism because of the Red Scare. We need to step back and take inaction of the historical analyst in order to understand material conditions for the key time to act. Onto the lie-by line. They say that capitalism is produced by securitized mindset, but this is above economic models that informs culture. Now onto the perm debate. Group it. Mutually exclusive alternatives to come first to ideological focus that inhibits meaningful change by both obscuring the right end goals and by giving a point for conservatives to backlash to this turns to have solvency. And the perm links to the case that Ebertons of Arzada. This in the overview they place ideology before material focus. This ultimately allows for capitalism to continue. The Mark quote contextualizes this. Jesus says not to challenge institutions in favor of devotion to God. Their legal answer doesn't apply. Our scripture quote is from the narrative of Christ. It also cross-apply Jesus is embedded into the Old Testament, which means all of their no link, we don't support God or we don't support the entire Bible is untrue because Jesus sees himself as a law enforcer for the Bible. And their no link argument doesn't make sense. That was answered. Their case. They don't solve their role about this. Is both in the capital and this is going to be below down. Crossed by the Old Testament argument means none of their answers apply. They say the church committed to, the church equates to a rhizomatic body of difference, but the rhizomatic philosophy is incompatible with historical materialism. This is a new link. They reject dialectical and systematic analysis in favor of universal press. The Athens of producing a fetish of social fragmentation. Gonzalez 4. Historical materialism comes to conflict with postmodernist theory. Postmodernist development prevents this kind of history subjectivity aggressively rejects dialectics. Those aptly encapsulates the postmodern dialectic of dialectics without understanding the relation between uniform process of global romanticization of postmodern and so producing a fetish social fragmentation by privileging schizophrenia to describe the ideal postmodern subject. And they extend that they try to put their ideology into a competitive setting, but this turns their advocacy because it forces a negation from the other side, which means they ultimately don't get to promote their form of gospel. They don't get to engage us. They can only breed resentment toward their advocacy because we have to take take a side against them and extend our Gargano evidence. There's no good evidence. There's no good answer to this. He says something along the lines of, "This is why they put it into the debate, but this doesn't make sense because it turns solvency." And extend the Gargano evidence. Their use of Christian doctrine or Christ doctrine to win and force and counter Christ is against the narrative of Christ. Or Gargano evidence is specific that Christ promoted engagement as to offer, but not to assault or manipulate or control through narratives. This is you should reach out, but not force people into engagement. This is going to turn the affirmative because it means they're not going to have any kind of spillover. They're not going to create any kind of change with their understanding of the narrative of Christ. Now, onto the slavery turn. Their affirmation of life argument is bullshit. Our card specifically implicates Christ and how in his narrative he is silent on slavery despite multiple encounters with it, and even justifies it in a sense of saying you should restrict yourself with how you should beat your slaves. But ultimately, this silence means complicity and justifies slavery as a whole. This is the same justification that was used through the what's the word? Antebellum South, that to justify slavery and the institution. That's our Giles evidence. Now, this is going to be a decision rule. This goes conceded by the affirmative, or Garrison evidence warns that slavery should never be allowed because of the form of oppression that it represents. Now, they have no answer to the racism and xenophobia argument. They just say that there's no impact. But our Klein evidence is specific that it produces the doctrine of the Bible produces a narrative which promotes a harsher enforcement of laws to foreigners and allowance of violence on this. You can cross-apply the Garrison evidence is going to be D-rule because it promotes a structure of oppression, and specifically racism is a D-rule. Part 91, the presence of racism provides us all cruel and inhumane and unjust controls, affects all control, model that ultimately destroys all right by reckoning and iration, called destroy the factors of those time to tear out the walls of racism. Self-destruction seems to be drawing near. We dare not allow it to continue.
No new IR arguments.
No new 1AR arguments. One in our strat is based on that.